Hey guys, good morning. I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. This is our reading lesson for today, and we're going to continue with our nonfiction unit talking about text features specifically. So let me go ahead and pull up our presentation and we'll get started. All right, so in the past, we have talked about how to use nonfiction text features. We talked about the importance of them just a little bit, but today we want to talk about why we use nonfiction text features to better understand a reference text. So we're going to be reading a reference text together, and then as we read it, we're going to look at those text features to help us understand more about what we're reading. So looking at text features in nonfiction reference text, it can be a lot of fun. Sometimes there are maps, sometimes there are pictures, there are charts, headings, extra facts and information. But what I like to do is I like to think of all of these extra things as clues. And they're clues that you need to put together to help see the bigger picture or to help understand what's going on. It helps to tell us what the text is going to be about, and a lot of times we can look at those nonfiction text features before we even start reading to get an idea of what we're getting into. When we take the time to look at those text features before we start reading, we can think about what we already know, we can use that information, and that kind of helps us to better understand what we're reading as well. Okay, we call that schema. I know you guys have heard me say that many times this year, but use that schema to help us better understand what we're reading. So today, we're going to explore a text that includes information all about birds, and birds specifically that live in our backyards. So while we've been working from home, while I've been teaching from home, I have a sliding door here and a sliding door here that goes all the way across the walls of my house. And so no matter where I'm sitting in my house, I'm looking outside. And it's very easy, as I'm sitting here working, to kind of take a break and peek outside and see what's going on. And I've noticed all of the birds that live around my home. There's like a little community of them. I've noticed a lot of cardinals, I've noticed finches, I've noticed doves, and lately there has been a bluebird or a blue jay that's been coming around, and he's huge and he's really, really big and he's really fast and powerful. So these birds kind of interest me. So I thought that we could learn a little bit about the birds that you see in your backyard, and hopefully it can interest you and you can kind of keep an eye out for them as you're eating your lunch or sitting at the kitchen table and kind of looking outside. So let me go ahead and share our article with you. This is a reference text, so we are going to be learning about birds specifically. Now, the article is titled, "What's for Lunch?" and it's by John Bonnet Wexo. And it is from a Zoodles magazine called Backyard Birds. So before we even get started, I just want to look at the pictures, because when I open up a book or pull out an article, my eyes immediately go to the pictures. I like to look at those first just to see what I'm getting into. So let's take a look at the pictures together. On the left-hand side, you see a woodpecker. Okay, it's got that kind of pointed head, and in real life, the head is kind of a reddish brown color, and then the body is a black color with the white, and then its beak is kind of like a yellowish, orangish color. And then on the other side, the right-hand side, is a heron. Now, a heron is more of a seaside bird, so we do have herons in our town, but herons aren't everywhere, so these aren't in everyone's backyard. But herons are typically a gray color, almost like a bluish gray color. They have a lighter gray and then it fades to a white. They've got that, it can be a gray beak, it can be a yellowish beak, just depending on the heron. And the herons are seaside birds, so they live near the ocean because that's what they eat. They eat things that live near the ocean. So now that we've kind of looked at the pictures and we're kind of guessing what this is going to be about, let's start looking at the text features beside the pictures. So at the top, it says, "You can tell a lot about what a bird eats simply by looking at its beak and its feet." Now remember, the beak is that pointy mouth that the bird has. So when we look at the pointy mouth, the mouths of birds are made for what they eat. Okay, so a heron's feet, they aren't webbed. Now, if you guys don't know what webbing is, okay, a heron foot looks does not look like this. This is kind of like what a duck foot looks like. And a duck foot is webbed. And so these would be like the toes of the foot, but the webbing is that material or that skin that goes in between the toes. And it helps different animals to be able to swim. That's what webbing is for. We don't really have webbing in between our hands, but you know, some animals do have skin that comes in between our finger or their fingers, and it just helps them to swim. So herons, they aren't really swimmers. Instead, they need to be able to walk quietly on land. So they don't have that webbing. They have very, you can kind of see they have those long toes, and it has a long, long beak, and the beak is able to grab fish in the water. So they kind of walk quietly through the water and then grab the fish without dunking its eyes underwater. So it's really cool that they can have that. It's almost like a little harpoon. They can spear a fish and eat the fish. So then if we go down further, we can read about the woodpecker. A woodpecker's special feet help it to hop up and down the trunk of a tree. Its beak is strong enough to peck for insects. So its feet can grip the tree, and he kind of hops around the tree. And then the beak pecks in order to get the insects out of the tree so he can eat them. So he has a very strong beak. Okay, then we have the duck, and a duck's webbed feet are for swimming. So if you look at the duck, he has those webbed feet. He uses them almost like little flippers to paddle and keep him afloat as he's swimming. And then he has the rounded bill or the rounded mouth, and it scoops underwater for plants. Lots of interesting birds. Now at the bottom, we have another caption. We want to make sure we read all of the captions in nonfiction. High and low. Birds fly differently too. Some birds, like ducks, usually fly low, closer to the land and water. Other birds, like hawks, often fly high, over the treetops. Do you think a woodpecker would fly high or low? How about a hummingbird? Why? So guys, let's think about that. A woodpecker, where is its food typically? Is it high up in a tree or low on the ground? So we just learned that woodpecker's food is in the tree. It's high in the tree. They peck for insects. So a woodpecker is typically going to fly high. Okay, now a hummingbird eats nectar, so it sucks nectar from plants. Do you think that a hummingbird is going to fly high or low? Okay, and why do you think that? So yes, a hummingbird is typically going to fly low because the plants that have the nectar are low to the ground, so their food source is low to the ground. Birds fly depending on where their food source is. So let's check out the next page. All right, so I see another photograph at the top. That's a text feature that we need to use. And then beside it is a caption. A hawk has strong feet for grabbing prey and a sharp beak for ripping it into bite-sized pieces. So we know that a hawk actually eats meat, and so when he gets his prey, he can rip it into small pieces with his very sharp beak and his very sharp feet as well. Now hawks, we see those around here. They're typically pretty big, and they fly very high because they're searching for their prey. They have wonderful eyesight, so they can see down low and find their prey. The next picture is a cardinal. Now these are those red birds that you might see in your yard. They're beautiful. And this is actually our state bird. So this is the North Carolina state bird. A cardinal's short, sharp beak is perfect for cracking open seeds. Its feet are for perching on branches. So we've got a cardinal here, and he's got that little short beak so he can crack open the seeds and eat the seeds. Okay, and then the last bird is a hummingbird. Now, if you notice in the picture, we can't see his wings. That's because the hummingbird wings move so fast that you can't just snap a picture of it on camera. A hummingbird uses its long, thin beak to draw nectar from flowers. It hardly uses its feet because it doesn't land very often. Hummingbirds are kind of like little helicopters, and they just kind of hover over the plant that they're eating out of, just like in the picture. Okay, so that's all we have for this text. Now, if we were to just look at this text and not use those captions and those text features, we would not have learned anything about backyard birds because those captions were the article. Those captions were the factual information. So as you're reading nonfiction, it's important, don't just read the body text. Make sure to use the captions, use the headings, use the titles, use the bold words, the photographs, the maps, all of the parts of the text, because all of them are clues that come together to help you understand the bigger picture or to understand the entire picture. So don't forget to do that today. For your assignment, you're going to go on to Epic and you're going to choose any nonfiction book that you would prefer, and you're going to complete a KWL chart with this text. So what did you know before you read the text? What did you want to know? And then after you read and used all of your nonfiction text features, what did you learn? Okay, so doing that KWL chart to guide your learning today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I will see you guys this afternoon.